Welcome back to the Saddle Hunting Channel here on YouTube. My name is Spencer, and in today's video we're going to be talking all about tree tethers. I've done a few videos on tree tethers in the past, and over the past probably 3 seasons now I have settled on using 8mm Oplux for my tether. This is a really fantastic option. It is compact, it's very malleable, it's very strong. It's been just a really good rope for me. I've used it in a couple different configurations. This one here is with 5.5mm Bill Kevlar and a figure eighter from Genesis 3D with just a black diamond carabiner. So that's one way that I have run that. The other way that I've done it is with a CT roll and lock. Both worked very, very well, accomplished the purpose. Big difference in price between the two though. So over the past couple years, I've noticed, especially on the one that utilizes the hitch cord, the sheath of the Oplux seems to get a little bit worn down and almost get gummed up. I had bought a brand new 6mm eye-to-eye cord to use with this setup, put it on there once, and kind of all the gunk from the sheath hung up on my friction cord and just caused it to really bind up and not work very smoothly at all. So I just wasn't pleased with the long-term durability of this. While I think it's structurally sound after a couple of seasons of use, I wasn't real pleased with that. So I started looking around for a new tether option, and I found this one here. This is the Aero Shrike tether, and this is what we're going to talk about today. This tether is different from anything I've tried before because it is a tubular webbing tether, which is very, very unique. This is the first one that I know of that's been commercially made. It has a sewn and reinforced eye on one end, and then on the other end it adjusts via 2 Austrialpen frame buckles that are sewn onto another piece of webbing that's got sewn loops on each end, and they use a Fusion auto locking carabiner. This is really a fantastic lightweight carabiner. And so that's the tether in a nutshell. We're going to talk more about how it functions in a minute, but I want to start off by kind of comparing it to these 2 other configurations that I have in the Oplux. Now, let's talk length first. They say that this tether is 8 foot on the Aero Hunter website. That's not been my experience. The functional length of it seems to be closer to 7 feet. Whereas the Oplux, I think I bought these lines from Wild Edge initially. They have the factory sewn eye from Sterling. These have a finished length of 8.5 feet. So a little bit longer than the Shrike. Next thing I want to talk about is weight. In the configuration that the Shrike comes in, it is 8.5 ounces. So very lightweight. If you compare that to, let's say, the one here with the CT roll and lock, this will be the other end of the spectrum. This one has a black diamond carabiner and it weighs 9.9 ounces. So about 1.5 ounces heavier. The lightest option is this setup with the figure eighter and another black diamond carabiner. This weighs 8.1 ounces. So they're very, very similar in weight. Nothing that I think anybody would even notice in the real world. Next thing I want to talk about is packability. You can see I can basically crunch down that Oplux so that it fits right there in my hand. And same thing with the Aero Hunter Shrike tether. They are both very, very compact packages. So I really like that. I don't know that one has an advantage over the other. Very, very similar. I know some guys are going to be concerned about strength. So how strong is a tubular webbing tether? Well, Aero Hunter says that this tubular webbing has a minimum breaking strength of 4,000 pounds. These Austrialpen frame buckles have a minimum breaking strength of 4,050 pounds. And then this Fusion carabiner is 5,170 pounds. So your weakest link in this package is still rated for over 4,000 pounds. Let's take, for example, then and compare that to the 8mm Oplux. The rope itself has a breaking strength of 5,440 pounds. And then some typical hitch cords, let's say TRC, that has a minimum breaking strength of 3,000, just shy of 3,500 pounds. This 5.5mm Kevlar is just over 4,000 pounds. And then your breaking strength on your carabiner is going to depend on what carabiner you get. So while the breaking strength of the rope is a little bit stronger, your weakest link is going to be your hitch cord, which is slightly weaker than the weakest link in the Shrike package, but both are very, very, very strong options. The next thing I want to talk about is cost. How do they compare cost-wise? Well, if you were to buy all of these pieces, the 8.5 foot length with the sewn eye, with a carabiner and enough hitch cord and a tender, you're gonna get this package for somewhere in the neighborhood of $65 or $70 before shipping, depending on where you get it from and which figure eighter you go with. If you get it with a CT roll-and lock in one of these oval carabiners, either from Petzl or Black Diamond, your cost goes up significantly, because these things are like in the $80 to $85 range unless you can find a sale. And so that you're looking there, this package right here is about $130. And so if you take both of those packages and compare them to the Shrike, this is a deal. This package right here, as they sell it and as you see it, costs $48 before shipping. So it's significantly cheaper than either one of the Oplux options. And I know there's some other 8mm lines out there from Tethered and from Trophy Line and now from Latitude, and those are even more expensive than Oplux. So this is a really, really good value in my opinion. So those are just some of the nuts and bolts about this tether and how it compares to the 8mm Oplux that I have been using. I want to take this and show you guys how it functions. I want to show you how it goes onto the tree. Does it sag? How easy is it to get to stay in place? And then, most importantly, how easy is it to adjust when you're using it as a tether? And there's two adjustments we're going to look at. Number one, being able to take up slack, and then number two, being able to let out slack. So we're going to compare all three of these just so you can get an idea of which one might function the easiest. So going to take this outside, throw it on a tree, show you how that works. Stay with us, guys. All right, we're outside. I'm going to show you how these function. I want to show you how I hang a tether to make sure that it holds in the spot I want it, even if it's not under tension. There's a few different ways you can do that. So first, I'm going to show you how to do that by girth hitching it. Before I do that though, I want to point out that when you're hanging your tether, you want to put the eye on the same side of the tree as your dominant hand. That way when you're leaning out for most of your shots, the rope is pulling against the eye and keeping it under tension. That just helps to keep it in place as well. So for me, I'm right-handed. We're going to keep the eye on the right side. Put this tether around the tree. Now, the first way I want to show you is a girth hitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the eye and we're going to fold it back over itself. So now we've got basically a slip knot there. And we're going to run the carabiner and everything through that and allow the girth hitch to tighten down on the rope. Get it into position, and you can see that'll just cinch right down on itself very easily. So that's one way to do it. Let me show you another way. This is probably my preferred way. I'm going to take the rope, pass it around the tree again, but this time I'm just going to put it straight through the eye. And I'll get it set where I want it. Now, I'll show you a close-up of this, but I just keep some castration bands on the end of the tether. And I pull that castration band up toward the end, put it in place, and it's going to hold it right where I want it. So that's a very easy way of doing it. Now, the webbing tether is slightly different. Let me show you both of those ways. Now, the way they've got this sewed, you could do the girth hitch, but because it's so stiff, I found that it doesn't sit real clean. Another way, and I think that I saw somebody recommend this, I can't remember exactly who or where, the recommendation would be to pass it through twice. So you go through once, then you get it in the tree, you go through a second time, and that will certainly, almost creates like a little knot, just extra friction there. That will certainly do the trick. To me, it's just not been very clean, and I'm not a big fan of that either. So I'm essentially using the castration band, but I found castration bands on the webbing to be a little bit tight, so I just got a thicker rubber band, and I put it around there 2 or 3 times, and we'll do the same thing. One thing I've noticed with this Shrike tether, when you put it around, you want to make sure that it's kind of almost at its maximum length. It's just easier to take the length up rather than to adjust it if you find you're short. So you run that straight through. One other thing I found with this is when you're, putting the tag end through the loop, both in putting it on the tree and taking it off, you want to lead with the carabiner. It just keeps it nice and streamlined and prevents the tag end there from getting hung up on anything. So I've got it passed through the eye. Just gonna pull it down tight. Now you'll notice it holds there. I think it's just that webbing provides a little extra friction, helps keep it in place. But I'm just gonna take that rubber band, pull it down toward the end there, get it tight, and that'll hold me right in place. So very easy to do. Works just as well as these other two options in my opinion. So now I want to show you the two major adjustments with all three tethers so you could get an idea of kind of how easy they are to work. That's basically taking length up and letting length out. So let's start with this top one. This here is our CT roll and lock. This is very easy to take length up, which is one of the reasons I like using it on a tether. So all I got to do to take length up is grab the end of it and pull it up and let go, and it's automatically going to grab. I can keep most of my weight in the saddle while I do that. Very, very easy to do. One-handed adjustment. To let it out, you have to unweight it a little bit. So you just kind of lean forward, put your arm on a tree, flip the cam up, let it down an inch or two, and boom, there you go. Again, unweight it, flip it up, sit back down into it, and it'll grab. So a little bit clunkier to take length up, and it's got to be unweighted by and large. So let me show you now the other 8mm line with the prusik tender. A lot of different friction hitches you can use. Right now I have on here a Mishoa can hitch. Same thing though, with that tender, you're just going to pull the tag end and it pulls it up. One thing I've noticed with this particular cord is I kind of have to seat it first to grab onto the rope. But sit down, if I want to go up, I just pull it and it adjusts. Pull it and it adjusts. So very easy. To let it down, I just got to grab the top of the friction hitch. If I let go, it's going to keep me there. So very easy. And notice, I've got a lot of weight in that. I'm just going to use 2 fingers right at the top of that hitch, and I can let weight out. So I can do that unweighted. Same thing the other way. Just going to pull up on the tag end, and it's going to grab when I let go. Now, it's going to function a little bit differently depending on what friction hitch you use, but that's the main idea. The nice thing about a rope tether is that you can put a stopper knot at the end. If that, if you fell into it and that thing slid down, your stopper knot's going to stop you. The other thing I like to do is to tie a little loop in the end of my tether, and then I'll take that and I'll clip it back into my carabiner. Just like that. And that way, in the case that I had a failure of the mechanical device or the hitch cord, I'm still going to be attached to my main line. So that's just a safety tip that I like to use. So let me show you the function of the Shrike now in those same 2 capacities. This carabiner is sweet, very easy to use. You'll notice on the Shrike there's these 2 kind of elastic bands on it. The bottom one you want to keep right down near those frame buckles. It helps it function very smoothly. The second one is just to capture basically like slack. So if I want to pull up, for example, take some tether length out, all I've got to do is grab the tag end there and pull it. Grab it and pull it. Now, it works pretty good if it's got some weight on it. So let me shorten my bridge up here. We'll get a little weight into the thing, and then I'll show you when we go up. But before I do that, let's show you the downward function. In order to go downward, all you have to do is take your thumb, put it on the top of that frame buckle, and tilt the frame buckle, okay? It does have to be a little bit unweighted. So I'm just going to lean forward, take a little bit of weight up, tilt that frame buckle, let some length out. As soon as I let go, it grabs me. So pretty easy to let length out, kind of a hybrid. I think you can have more weight on it than like with the CT, but not fully weighted like with that hitch cord. And then to take length up, I'm just gonna grab the end and pull it up. Pretty easy. It might take a little more force than the Oplux, but very easy to do. You know, I mostly adjust up when I'm going from sitting to leaning, so that's no big deal at all. To me, the more important adjustment is how easy does it let length out, because I often use a ring of steps, and when you move around the backside of the tree with your ring of steps, your tether rather gets hung up on the tree and gets shorter. So what you want to do is let some length out. So I can very easily just let some length out and then continue to rotate around the backside of the tree. So it's a very suitable option. You can take your second elastic piece there and push it up, keep that tag end out of the way. You could tie a loop on the end of this and clip it back in here. I've just found that it restricts kind of what you can grab and pull up. And you can see this is maybe an 18-inch in diameter tree, and I don't have a ton of working tail with the tether. So if you're a guy who hunts gigantic trees a lot, this may not be the greatest option. But let me just show you that again. Here I am totally weighted. Take a little bit of weight off, grab that frame buckle, let it down. To go up, I can just grab the tether itself, grab the tag end and pull it. Pretty easy to do. I mean, it may not be as smooth as one of those other ones, but it's not hard, and it's a whole lot cheaper. So there's kind of the function of the Aero Hunter Shrike tether. I love the carabiner. I think it functions great for $48. Kind of out the door, everything you need. It's a good feature. You'll notice there with gloves on, it can be kind of hard and grabby on my glove. So that's just something to keep in mind too. But anyway, that's kind of the function of the tether, how I'm using it. Let's go in the house. I'll give you a few concluding thoughts. All right, well, let me give you some concluding thoughts. I love this tether. It is super compact, very budget friendly, strong. I think it functions very easy, and then you don't have to worry about a mechanical device failing. Everything here is just built and super robust. So for the function that you get, the price that you get it for, I think this is hard to beat. It's really a fantastic package. Do I wish I had a loop on the end of it? Yeah, maybe. But you can tie one on there easily enough. But this, in my opinion, is a great tether. I've enjoyed using it over the past several months here, and it's what I'm going to continue to use, especially going into next season. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you guys are looking for a new tether, check out the Aero Hunter Shrike webbing tether.